weren't in distress. They weren't falling from the sky. They aimed for it, and they did a very good job. The Trade Center is torn open. There's a hole in the south side of the Trade Center, torn open from the impact of the plane, which fell into the street below.
Would that be the westernmost of the two towers?
The southernmost of the two towers.
Southernmost of the two towers.
Yes, yes. It's a big gaping hole in it. Flames and smoke have been pouring out since it happened about 5 minutes ago. I'm a little shaken because I saw the plane pass before my eyes. It was just about at my eye level. So.
How close to you?
A block and a half.
You say you saw the first plane fall down.
Yeah.
We're re-racking tape here, by the way, and I'm speaking to you, Mr. Schneider, but I'm showing tape right here of the second plane boring into the northernmost of the two towers. You say you saw the first plane fall down. What can you tell me about that plane?
Well, I didn't recognize it as a plane at first. It looked to me like a charred piece of metal, and I had thought that there was an explosion from within the Trade Center, so I thought what I was seeing was a piece of the Trade Center falling because the sheath of the Trade Center is metal. But since I've learned that the first explosion was caused by a plane crashing into the tower, I've assumed that what I saw was a piece of fuselage that was falling, and the plume of flame I saw shoot out would be consistent with jet fuel exploding.
So you really have no idea of how large a plane the first one was?
No, I didn't even know that was a plane. I learned that from the news media. But I definitely saw the second plane. I heard it sound, and I saw it streaming in from the south. I watched it crash into the Trade Center.
You said you're very afraid, and understandably so. They're not evacuating your building?
No. I'm going to leave on my own, but I haven't heard any decisions made to that effect.
Can you see the ground from your vantage point?
Oh, yes.
Talk to me about the scene on the ground, if you would.
Well, it's completely devoid of vehicles and people. The entire street is totally littered with paper and smoke, and several vehicles are on fire on Liberty Street in the parking lot where either fuel or pieces of the plane fell onto them after crashing into the Trade Center.
But
there's a tremendous number of emergency vehicles here and continuing to arrive. I hear sirens from every side.
All right, Mr. Schneider, you've got a great vantage point. I'm going to ask you to hold on with me for a little while, if you would.
Okay, Mr. Gunn.
I know you're anxious to get out of the building. I'm not going to keep you forever, I promise.
Okay.
But let me ask you to sit tight for a second while I go to Washington, where Jim Stewart is standing by. He's got some official reaction. Jim, good morning. What are you hearing?
Good morning, Bryant. Well, as by happenstance, I was talking to FBI headquarters at the moment this explosion took place. They saw it occur as we saw it occur, the second explosion, rather, and their reaction was the same as everyone else. Number one, they noticed the clear weather there. Number two, they noticed what appeared to be, in their eyes, a deliberate attempt to crash the aircraft into the World Trade Center. Right now, they are trying to determine whether, in fact, it was deliberate. They have no information they can share at the moment, and I get the sense that they're in the same mode that we are, simply their mouth is agape trying to figure out what's going on.
Jim, let me interrupt for just 1 second. I'm looking at a report that the FBI is investigating reports of a plane hijacking. Did you have any news of that?
No, we don't.
No confirmation of that whatsoever?
We have no confirmation
Is anybody
of
even
that.
there discussing that?
No, the only discussion that's been going on here, Bryant, is that the World Trade Center has obvious symbolic value. It's been a target before of terrorism, and frankly, it would not surprise the FBI or anyone in national security if it was a target again.
Sometimes the obvious leads you to a conclusion. We're looking at two crashes, 18 minutes apart, into an obvious target, a building that has never been hit with a plane before on a clear day. What do the intelligence people there say about that?
The intelligence community for some time has been warning in a steady drumbeat, Bryant, that Osama bin Laden has not been heard from now, frankly, since the beginning of the year, the USS Cole incident, rather, and they've been wondering when and if he will strike again, and they only believed it was a matter of time. And I believe that today that is going to be their first suspicion, but we have no confirmation of that. I must underline, there's no confirmation that this is a terrorist attack, number one, or number two, that it's Osama bin Laden involvement. But I can tell you right now, that is what they are thinking, that is the working premise, and we'll just have to see as the day unfolds what they discover.
Jim, as we sit here at 9:17, does the FBI have any choice but to sit and watch this on television?
I have never heard such a gasp of astonishment as I heard speaking to the FBI headquarters this morning when they saw what we saw, the explosion at the World Trade Center, the second explosion, and the smoke coming out of it. It reminded me and them of Oklahoma City. There's pure astonishment, I can tell you, at FBI headquarters this morning, and they are trying to find out the facts just as we are. And right now, they don't have any.
And as you noted, Jim, this has been a target before. Back on February 26, 93, a terrorist act at the World Trade Center killed 6 and injured more than 1,000 others. Do you know whether or not the FBI had received any warnings about attacks on domestic soil?
You know, frankly, no, and it's a question that we ask every day. I asked as recently as yesterday of the intelligence community what was the latest on terrorism threats in the United States, whether any intercepts had been picked up, whether there was any current fear here that the next target would be within the United States. The answer came back no. They were still anticipating that the next strike against American interest would be overseas somewhere. Those are the most vulnerable targets. Today would clearly be some evidence that that's not the case at all. In clear weather, as you pointed out, what appears to be a deliberate attack into the heart of the financial district in New York City. You can't pick a more explicit message to send to America if you're a terrorist than what happened today. I stress again, though, this is pure speculation, but it is speculation right now by the people who are going to have to solve this crime, if in fact it is one, Brian.
That's a good point, Jim. At this point, it is pure speculation. The only thing we can tell you is we are looking at a very clear day in Manhattan on this Tuesday morning. We are looking at 2 towers of 110 stories in height that are on fire right now, that have absorbed 2 impacts with 18 minutes apart. Certainly, it's a little more than it would be an amazing coincidence, I think we should say.
Brian,
go ahead.
We've just been told that, and this should not be come as a surprise, it's standard procedure by the FBI. Their rapid deployment team from the Washington field office, this is a group of people that they send to major disaster and terrorist incidents, such as the twin embassy bombings in Africa. They have now been dispatched to New York. I have reason to believe, too, that some members of the HRT, that's the hostage rescue team, have been put on alert. We don't have any word yet that they would be sent. And these are standard procedures that would take place anytime a major terrorist incident occurs. But this would be a group of approximately 60 experts, people who are very good at picking up the bits of debris that we've been talking about falling on the streets of New York and turning that into evidence should they discover that this, in fact, was a deliberate act.
Jim, and if you don't know the answer to this, I understand, so I apologize up front for asking you. But do you know whether or not there are any federal offices in the World Trade Center at the upper level?
I don't know that there are. I do not believe that there are. I believe that the FBI and the ATF, the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms people are all closer to Midtown, but I don't know the precise answer to that.
So, in fact, if the buildings were targeted intentionally, this would be more symbolic than a direct attack on the federal government or its employees. Jim, let me ask you to sit tight for a second. I understand, Mr. Davis, you're back with me on the line?
I am.
And Miss Renault, you're also back on the line?
Sure.
Mr. Davis, bring us up to speed. What are you seeing? Anything changed?
No, but the smoke is getting thicker, and I can see flames from some of the windows on the first tower. My view of the second tower is somewhat obstructed.
Where are you, 50th and 5th?
I'm 50th and 5th.
Yeah. The officials there are anxious to in any way evacuate your building? Or is this just a normal work day?
I've been told that Rockefeller Center is putting into effect security measures, but we have not been told to evacuate.
Okay. And Miss Renault, what are you seeing right now?
From the southeast tower, there are still flames coming out of the north side of the building. It may be just my perspective, but it looks like something could be sticking out of that. Also, it looks like on the northwest tower that there's possibly, the fire and everything could have moved up because it seems to be that there's smoke coming out higher floors on the building.
You say there appears to be something out. That would be the second aircraft?
Yes.
The one at the lower level?
Yes.
And what actually do you see?
It just, there's an object that doesn't fit with the line of the building that seems to be protruding, and that's what's on fire.
We're getting a look at the building right now, and I must say the smoke seems to be obscuring our view enough so that we can't identify it. We're re-racking the tape right now. You see encircled there off on the right-hand side of your screen, this is the second plane. Obviously, the first plane has already collided with the top of the southernmost building, and now here comes the second plane. And you see, making no moves to evade the second tower, and then crashing into the second one. Ms. Renault, let me ask you to sit tight. Mr. Davis, you too, for a second. I want to go to Washington, where White House correspondent Bill Plant is. You say you saw the first plane fall down.
Yeah.
We're re-racking tape here, by the way, and for I'm speaking to you, Mr. Schneider, but I'm showing tape right here of the second plane boring into the northernmost of the two towers. You say you saw the first plane fall down. What can you tell me about that plane?
Well, I didn't recognize it as a plane at first. It looked to me like a charred piece of metal, and I had thought that there was an explosion from within the Trade Center, so I thought what I was seeing was a piece of the Trade Center falling, because the sheath of the Trade Center is metal. But since I've learned that the first explosion in distress, they weren't falling from the sky, they aimed for it. And they did a very good job. The Trade Center is torn open. There's a hole in the south side of the Trade Center, torn open from the impact of the plane, which fell into the street below.
Would that be the westernmost of the two towers?
The southernmost of the two towers.
Southernmost of the two towers.
Yes, yes. There's a big gaping hole in it. Flames and smoke have been pouring out since it happened about 5 minutes ago. I'm a little shaken because I saw the plane pass before my eyes. It was just about at my eye level. So.
How close to you?
A block and a half. It was caused by a plane crashing into the tower. I've assumed that what I saw was a piece of fuselage that was falling, and the plume of flame I saw shoot out would be consistent with jet fuel exploding.
So you really have no idea of how large a plane the first one was?
No, I didn't even know that was a plane. I learned that from the